I think I'd like to create like Billy Wilder. I'd show you the apartment and tell you some like it hot. Or maybe, like Mr. Hitchcock, I'd make you scared of heights, ropes, birds, and binoculars. But until then, all I have is this dime store cinema.
Hello, YouTube, Internet World. Welcome back to another episode of Dime Store Cinema on the road. Let's talk movies. So today, we're going to talk about the Japanese shocksploitation films Red Room and Red Room 2. And disclaimer is, don't you ever watch these damn movies. Oh my goodness. Now, I saw these a while ago, back in the height of my horror movie curiosity. So, as any of you who have watched some of my previous videos will know, I kind of went through a progression of discovering horror. So during that progression towards the middle of it, really, towards the middle of where I am now, I started getting into kind of like the shocking horror films, the torture porn, and the movies that were made to shock for shock's sake, you know, stuff like Ichi the Killer, stuff like Red Room, which I'm talking about now, stuff like stuff that Saw popularized. But there are a lot of movies made before and around that time that were significantly worse. Saw tamed it down to make it commercially successful. So, you know, Hostel as well, kind of toning back some of these movies that already existed to make them commercially viable. So I got into, lightly, the the more extreme versions of these movies. Now, looking back, there's absolutely no point in watching them. There's no redeeming qualities. Characters aren't developed. Stories aren't being told. They're images, just a collection of images of people being tortured, essentially. And so, isn't going to be much of a review. Once again, kind of like Hanzo the Razor. I don't even... okay. So, for instance, in Red Room 1. So the premise is, there's a game show. You have contestants competing for a lot of money. And it's a card game coupled with like a kind of dare scenario. So you have contestants drawing cards. Whoever draws the king controls what two of the contestants do. So the king gets to pick which two contestants do it, and then he gets to decide what the parameters are. So, but the thing is, there are no rules. So he gets to have them do anything. And if they're unable to complete the task, they lose. So, this posits that all people given unlimited power will just be the most depraved, horrible people on Earth. And on top of that, the people performing the acts within their parameters are also equally as awful and terrible and will do anything to get money. So that's that's the picture of humanity that both of these movies are painting. And they're both pretty much the same movie. They just have different people in them and have different scenarios of awful, terrible things happening. For instance, one of the things that happens is a lady is forced to stick a light bulb up a very sensitive place in her body, and then forced to shatter it using contractions in her muscles. Another such incident is a lady, and this isn't a very realistic movie, based people surviving the things they're going through and being physically capable of doing the things that they're doing. But, you know, it's the kind of movie where, or it's kind of a series of movies where, you know, a lady will just have her unborn child ripped out of her vagina. You know, yeah, it's that kind of thing. And, you know, I only wanted to talk about it because, you know, there are a lot of these kind of movies that exist. People kind of misunderstand or misinterpret the point of horror films, and they go to the extreme, and they lose the artistic merit that is necessary to make a decent film. Because I mean, there are plenty of movies with shocking content that are still great pieces of art, and you know, and most of the time when that is the case, they're using the shock appeal to make a point. Think of Requiem for a Dream, for instance, or Schindler's List, presenting very horrific information, but within the context of a story that teaches us something, or acting as a cautionary tale, which most good horror films are to some extent. But then you have movies like this, where there's no merit, there's just shock and schlock and bad acting and low budget, terrible effects, and there's nothing to it. So I only bring it up, one, because I've seen it, and since I've seen it, I figure I should talk about it, and two, because I want to kind of let any would-be filmmakers know that it's not enough to just have an idea, it's not enough to just be shocking. You may garner some fans, but in order to really be recognized and appreciated as a filmmaker and as an artist, it needs to be in the service of something. The thing that shocks people needs to be serving the purpose of communicating something other than just trying to gross people out. And I don't see as much of it now, although that might just be because I'm not seeking these types of movies out. But there for a while, these types of movies are really, really popular. And there was even a time in the 70s and 80s where this was also really popular. Although even back then it wasn't as aimless. A lot of times there was a lot of there was shocking content, but even then it wasn't as mindless as these two movies, Red Room and Red Room 2. And I mean, I understand that Japanese cinema, some of the mindsets are different, and they're gonna be, because it's a different culture, and that's fine. But having seen so many really, really good and brilliant Japanese movies and anime, I can't excuse these films, because I've seen really crazy and trippy and horrific things happen in anime and in Japanese horror films, but they're attached to something that is meaningful and is artistic, and it makes these shocking experiences more shocking and more poignant. as opposed to these movies where it's just nonsensical violence and portraying only the absolute worst in humanity and being very nihilistic and pessimistic and cynical. And, you know, there's a time and a place for that, but without any context, just throwing you right into this movie about a game show, which could be a great social satire, but abandons any attempt at being satirical for just sheer shock. In any case, don't watch these movies. They're garbage. They're terrible, and they'll ruin your day and your thoughts for weeks. And it's just, even though the effects aren't good and you can tell that it's fake, just the idea of these things being thought of by another person, it just will ruin your day. It did mine, and I was even into that kind of thing back then. So, you know, just don't watch it. Find a good movie to watch. Watch E.T. the Killer. E.T. the Killer is crazy and messed up, and it'll mess with your head, but it's contained within a good story, and the acting is good, and some of the effects and some of the occurrences are fascinating and interesting to watch. So just, yeah, if you're interested in something crazy and out there, just find something else. Don't watch either of these movies. Although, like I said, I haven't seen them in a while, or like available in a while, so they might not be easy to find, so I might not even need to warn you guys about them. But in any case, yeah, thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll, you know, if you're into that kind of thing, and I'll talk to you all later.